Hello, and welcome to SolarLingua, the totally serious channel that teaches you linguistics and substitutes your linguistic education in university with memes, rants, and depression. So I've been binge-watching these tier list videos recently, and I'm probably 10 months late for this stuff, but yeah, I didn't find any tier lists on grammatical features, so I decided to make one. Obviously, this is purely subjective, but I'm gonna say some outrageous stuff, so if you can handle that, I don't know what to tell you. On this channel, every language gets shit on equally, so let's get started. I prepared this tier list with these little squares that show a specific grammatical feature, and yeah, I'll explain what it is and then rank it based on my very personal experience with it and how fond of it I am. So, and this will be definitely longer videos, so get comfortable, grab some coffee or hydrochloric acid, and let's get started. Affect. Affect is your typical weeaboo trying to sound more Japanese. It is an emotion conveyed by the speaker, usually by adding a word, which in linguistics we then call modal particle. And the Japanese do that very well. So for example, soto wa samui yo. I'm telling you, it's cold outside. It's letting somebody know. But soto wa samui ne. It's so cold outside, isn't it? So that's you seeking approval. And this is a cool feature that a lot of languages make good use of, so it's good to have, I'd say. Animacy. Animacy is the concept of categorizing a noun based on it being alive or dead. That brings a whole bunch of problems with it, because you usually treat animate and inanimate objects grammatically different. In Russian and most other Slavic languages, the accusative case takes the form of the nominative case, if the noun is dead, and the genitive case if the noun is alive. So for example, dom стоит and я вижу дом, but кот сидит, я вижу кота. So see the little a at the end? But not only that, in modern times it can be pretty difficult to classify a noun as being alive or dead. So, is a robot alive? In Russian it definitely is. Я вижу робота. But in Japanese, it's really up to you. So Will Smith in I, Robot would say roboto ga iru, focusing on the human-like behavior of the robot. But I would say roboto ga aru, hoping that it stays dead for all eternity. Which is kind of cool, so I guess I'll put it to okay. Active-passive voice. If it is understood by you what grammatical voice is, then this concept doesn't need to be explained to you by me. Trash. Other languages do very well without the distinction between active and passive, and if you want to say I have been seen in Russian, for example, you just say they saw me, меня видели. And that's it, problem solved, and the Russians still managed to be remembered for the literature. Ah, fuck! Articles. Articles are part of a concept called definiteness, and they are as useful as a scuba diving suit in the Sahara. Almost all Slavic languages couldn't care less about articles, and even if I say quick brown fox jumped over a lazy dog, you would perfectly understand me and give as much of a damn about the definiteness of the fox as I would. If you have ever tried to learn German, you know deep inside your heart that the world doesn't need articles. Aspects. Aspects are the difference between I asked, I was asking, I have asked, I have been asking, I had asked, I had been asking, and I used to ask. All of them are in the past, but how the event is taking place over time changes. Now, while English expresses these different concepts using many words, you don't necessarily need to do that. You can use prefixes, suffixes, circumfixes, infixes, compound words, and many, many more. So, some cool aspects include the prospective aspect, she stabbed him immediately afterwards, the delimitative, he was dead for a while, or the transitional, he slowly became a zombie. And all of that can be reduced to one word. So, beautiful. Beautiful. Associated motion. If your girlfriend says, I'll go shopping, that usually indicates a loss of money, but not necessarily. She might go there with the intention of buying things, but more often than not, she might return with nothing except for a bad mood. That is associated motion. Just because she went there doesn't mean she bought something, and in some languages you can actually specify that difference. Now, that's kind of cool, but also kind of useless, so I'll put it to meh. Cases. Oh, cases are like capitalism. The more you have of it, the freer you get. Let me explain how free that is. In the Russian translation of Star Wars, Yoda's grammar is actually correct because the word order in Russian is so free that you can literally do whatever the hell you want.
Новый ученик твою надежду не оправдает.
Now, of course, some sentences might sound more poetic than others, but the grammar is still correct. So cases, they are the best thing ever. What can I say? They're the best thing ever. And even if natives of English and Romance languages start to cry now, I don't give a shit. Learn them, implement them, do it!
Do it!
Case stacking. While cases are a God-given grammatical feature, case stacking is for noobs who are not confident in their case-forming ability. Basically, what you do is you add redundancy. There's an Aboriginal language in Australia called Kayardild, and this is a sentence in that language. So, I'd say it's fair for me to put it to meh. Postpositions and circumpositions. I'll rank these two simultaneously because they belong to the same category, adpositions. Post and circumpositions are what you get when you get bored with prepositions and you want to experiment a bit. And experimenting with weird shit is a German tradition, so let me show you what I mean. Instead of putting in, on, at, with, for in front of the noun, you can get more creative. So for example, for my wife's sake in German means meiner Frau zuliebe. Meiner Frau zuliebe. This is a postposition and you cannot say zuliebe meiner Frau. That doesn't work. Or for example, am Fluss entlang, meaning along the river. This is a circumposition, you know, because of obvious reasons. And again, you cannot say that differently, like am entlang Fluss or Fluss am entlang. Doesn't work. The only postposition in English I can think of right now is ago, like 10 years ago. So yeah, quite nice to have, both of them, because prepositions are fucking boring. Clusivity. Oh, this is a big one. Imagine I come up to you with my wife and I ask you, should we go to Disneyland? And in enthusiasm you scream, yeah, of course, man, cool. And so I'm glad. I go online and I buy 2 tickets for me and for my wife. I mean, I just asked you and I'm happy that you were so supportive, but I meant us two, me and my wife. What you have just experienced is an exclusive we. I didn't include you. And there are a lot of languages that differentiate between we including you and we but not you. So I think that shit needs to be implemented. Implement that shit as soon as possible. I advocate for an inclusive we and an exclusive suck comparative. Do you think it's cool to be able to say my cucumber is longer than yours? Well, think again, because many languages don't have degrees of comparison, so native speakers of those languages have to get creative. So for example, the Motu language in Papua New Guinea, the native speakers have to say, compared to my cucumber, your cucumber is small. Or do it like natives of Walpiri in Australia, my cucumber is big and yours is small. So my conclusion is, yeah, comparative is overrated. And the same goes for the superlative. Instead of saying I have the biggest cucumber, you can just say my cucumber is very big, taking away the specificity for the sake of romance and making your date flee anyway, because who the fuck talks about cucumbers? So yeah, same. Allative. Elative? Elative?
Elative.
Aha. Elativ. This is a good one and we don't have it in English. Imagine being a smartass on YouTube and writing some kind of professional explanation to an anonymous person who will insult you after you will have written that explanation anyway. Now, you might say this is an extremely difficult task or excruciatingly difficult, but that's a mouthful. Take Russian, for example, where you can just add a prefix to the adjective and the adjective will express exactly that. Najsложнейшая задача. Not the most difficult one, but extremely difficult. Love it. Countability. Countability is basically the fact that you can make another form of the noun that conveys a higher number of that noun. So this is good to have, right? But that's exactly what Korean, Japanese and Chinese are not doing. That's why I need a fuck ton of so-called measure words in order to express plurality. So something like 2 loaves of bread, 3 cups of coffee or 4 kilos of flour. And God forbid you forget the damn measure word. So yeah, how would you say 2 birds in Japanese? Nihiki no tori?
Nope.
Niko no tori?
Nope.
Futari no tori?
Nope.
Nitori? No, bitch. Niwa no tori. 2 wings of bird.
I'm a bird, mother... I'm a bird!
So to summarize, better have fucking countability in your language to avoid relying on this crap. So, plural. Now, while countability is fine and dandy, going off board with it is also shit. So the plural is still acceptable though, I'd say. 1 cat, 2 cats, 3 cats, 4 cats, 5 cats, a few cats, many cats, fine. However, it can vary how it is expressed. In German, you sometimes use articles, so das Fenster is 1 window, but die Fenster are the windows. And in some languages, you just use different words, like in Polish or English. Człowiek, a person, ludzie, people. So plural is fine. But with a dual form, we start to go fucking downhill. In Slovenian you have to use a special form for two of a thing. So, ena knjiga, dve knjigi, tri knjige, štyri knjige. So you have to factor that in for personal pronouns, I, we two, we all, possessive pronouns, my, our twos, our alls, determinative pronouns, this, these two, and these, and interrogative pronouns, which two, and which. And there are actually quite a few languages that make use of this concept, which fucking sucks, so it's a meh for me. And the trial is the same thing, just with three. If you talk to three people, you better use the trial, or otherwise you will be incomprehensible, apparently. In the Tokomalo language, Tolomako language, on the island of Vanuatu, right here, you would use a trial. So you in Tokomako is Inye, you two is Amurua, you three is Amutou, and you all is Amui. And I probably butchered that, but the chance of a Tokomaro person watching this video is so low that I'll take the chance. So yeah, pretty useless. Particle. Now those were specific numbers. The particle indicates a few of something. So the Walpiri language, right here, makes use of that. Kurdu is a child. Kurdu Jarra are two children. Kurdu Patu are a few children or several children. And just imagine the use of a particle in English. That's not good, sir. You have problem, Patu, with your computer. And I don't know why I said that in an Indian accent, it's in Australia. Dative constructions. If you study German and you said the phrase Ich bin heiß for I am hot, you know exactly what this will be about. I'm hot in English can have two meanings. You're sweating because of the weather, and the other one is you think quite highly of your appearance. Now, while this is A-level word joke material, it's still ambiguous. So that's what dative constructions are there for. Mir ist heiß means to me it is hot, meaning the weather. And Ich bin heiß means I'm sexy. And by the way, the same is true for other adjectives. Mir ist kalt, I'm cold or I feel cold. Ich bin kalt, I'm cold-hearted. Mir ist langweilig, I'm bored. And ich bin langweilig, I am boring. Das ist mir egal, I don't give a shit. Ich bin egal, I don't matter for shit. So, important. Dummy pronouns. Have you ever wondered what the it in It Is Raining means? Yeah, me neither. So why don't we just look outside and scream, rain! Because we in the West are sophisticated and we use dummy pronouns. Pronouns with no inherent meaning that are just used because whatever. That's different in other languages, by the way. In Russian, rain is going. In Japanese, rain is falling. In Spanish, is raining. And in Mandarin Chinese, rain is going down. So yeah, pretty useless. Transitivity. Transitivity, or transitive, is just a very sophisticated way of saying has an object. So let's take these two short sentences. He sees her and he sleeps. Now the verb to see is transitive because you can apply an object to it. He sees her. To sleep, on the other hand, is intransitive. You can't just say she sleeps him or he sleeps her. That doesn't make any sense. Now, while this example is very clear, English is not the best language to show this beautiful concept. Let me show you what I mean. If I say they kissed, a non-native could potentially ask, who did they kiss? And in confusion you would reply, each other, of course, you dipshit. So, but still, in German and most other European languages, there's no ambiguity here. Sie haben sich geküsst means they kissed each other, but Sie haben geküsst leaves open the object that was being kissed. So you better find a way to use that English. What a beautiful concept. Now, ergative absolutive alignment. How the fuck do I explain this shit? Do you want to learn Basque, Georgian, or Native American languages? Don't. Don't
Don't do it!
So to understand that shit, I need to tell you something about nominative accusative alignment, which is the standard. Remember the two sentences from Transitivity, he sees her and he sleeps? Good, we need those. The he who does something to an object is called the agent. Her is the object that is being seen.
We are reducing women to objects.
The second he who does something to himself, which is sleeping, is the subject. Now, in nominative accusative languages, the agent and the subject are marked the same way. So he sees her, he sleeps. Same word. But in ergative absolutive languages, the object and the subject are the same. So he sees her, him sleeps, or him sees she, He sleeps. Trash.
Know your fucking place, trash.
Evidentiality. In 2020, Trump won. Now, that statement is false, but I said it like if I knew better, and as if I have any special sources for that statement. Now, in some languages, you actually have to give these sources. Did you see it? Did you hear it? Is it a generally known fact? In Turkish, it's not mandatory, but there's a difference between Trump kazandı and Trump kazanmış. The first one is more or less a fact, but the second one means something like apparently Trump won. So in a reasonably reasonable world, we should always include our sources. I am for an international suffix, but I don't know, man, to express that you heard that shit on YouTube some time ago, but the video hadn't had any credibility whatsoever, like my video, so I don't need to take you seriously. Trump won, but I don't know, man. Works like a charm. Genitive constructions. Pretty easy to explain. Instead of saying the bone of the dog, you just say the dog's bone. It's a bit lame, but it does its job, so okay. Gender. Remember el, la, los, las, un, una, unos, unas from your Spanish classes? Yep, that's gender, and the Europeans love it. It's probably easier for me to show you the languages that don't use gender, but by itself, gender is not as bad as people might think. You can do some cool stuff by applying different genders to the same word. For example, in German, der Schild is the shield, but das Schild is the sign. Der See is lake, die See is the sea. And der Erbe is inheritor or ear, and das Erbe is inheritance. So I'd say it's okay. Now, there's a reason why I left out Africa when I showed you the map earlier with the gender. The reason is that gender is just a small part of a bigger concept called noun classes. Who said that he, she, it are the only classes you can categorize your nouns by? Apparently you can have special classes like tools, animals, plants, and Africans love that shit. Zulu, for example, a Bantu language, has 14 noun classes, and the base words can change depending on what class you put them in. Beautiful. Honorifics. While Australians might have no idea what I'm talking about right now, formal speech is still a very important factor of our lives, and languages like English are kind of lazy in this regard. At least keep your tu, vous distinction like French or du, sie in German or te, ve in Polish. And I mean the same is true for almost every other European language. But why stop there? Do it like the Koreans, who have an excruciatingly painful honorific system that makes use of several levels of formality, where the same meaning can have two different words, for example, to drink. It also depends on who you talk to, what position in society they have, how old they are, what their favorite animal is, and what video games they played recently. So while this is good to have, it's good to have honorifics, you still shouldn't go overboard, I think. Incorporation. I don't want to cherry pick the following sentences, but I was babysitting recently and I noticed that the baby's diapers weren't waterproof. So I double-checked the description and found that they bought the wrong product. Incorporation describes the process of incorporating a noun into a verb. So to proofread, to brainwash, to name-calling are all incorporations. English is actually quite good at it, and it saves some time coming up with useless words like the French do. Yeah, just stop it. Just stop it. Anyway, incorporation is good to have, so up you go. Infixes. Infixes are abso-fucking-lutely beautiful, and I pity every language that doesn't make use of them. Verb inflection. Verb inflection, extended to its extremes, is such a graceful way of expressing yourself.
I have crippling depression.
So for example, in modern standard Arabic, you have to conjugate verbs by person, first, second, and third, number, singular, dual, and plural, gender, male or female, voice, active or passive, tense, past, present, and future, and mood, subjunctive, jussive, and imperative. So the third person, male dual, active, present indicative form of to write, yaktubani, means they, meaning those two men, are writing. Or it could be boring, like Swedish, where conjugation is an alien concept. Pfft, come on, Swedish, like you can do better, throw some exceptions in there. So yeah, verb inflection is beautiful, very, very beautiful. It's horrible to learn though. Narrativity. Ever wanted to show your admiration or surprise with a single word? Well, you can do that now with narrativity. A few languages can have special word forms or suffixes that express surprise or admiration. Let me give you an example with the Dalai Lama. Say, this guy wants to buy the new iPhone. He reaches into his pockets and says, this? I've got some money. And that's a fact because he brought it. But if this guy was surprised about finding money in his pockets, he would rather say this. See, the ending changed because the Dalai Lama was surprised. So narrativity is definitely a good thing to have, especially if you want to talk to the Dalai Lama about capitalism. Grammatical moods.
Fuck her right in the pussy!
That was an imperative. So he who has not yet fucked her in the pussy ought to do that as soon as possible. Any mood, including the imperative, indicates that a certain situation is not happening or has not yet happened. Some of the most useful moods are subjunctive, he would fuck her right in the pussy; conditional, if he fucked her right in the pussy; optative, may he fuck her right in the pussy; or volitive, God forbid he fucks her right in the pussy. This video is getting demonetized. So yeah, since every language expresses some kind of mood, it's pretty standard, so I'll put it to okay. Pitch accent. Just watch Dogen's videos.
日本語はフラットですか？ええ、フラットです。
So, since Japanese is a pretty popular example, I'll take another very well-known language, Chichewa. It is spoken in central and southern Malawi, and like Swedish, Japanese, and Serbian, it has pitch accent. So for foreigners learning Chichewa, this doesn't help. However, this does help. Anadjetsa nyanin somba. Now imagine keeping track of high and low pitched syllables all the time. It's super annoying to learn, it doesn't help at all, and the worst thing is if you get the pitch wrong, you might say something stupid. By the way, this sentence in Chichewa means they fed the baboon some fish. I wanted to say scientists are discovering thermonuclear fusion, but I couldn't find the vocabulary for it. Pitch accent goes to meh. Pluractionality. This is a fucking weird concept. In some languages, the plural is not conveyed by the noun, but by the verb. So in English you would say, he tied up the dog, and he tied up the dogs. But in Central Pomo, however, you would say, he tied up one dog, and he tied up many dog. Now the thing is, the Central Pomo language died or went extinct in 2000, so that tells you everything you need to know about pluractionality. Polypersonal agreement. If I got it was a thing, then that would be polypersonal agreement. It's basically the idea that you can fuse the subject and the object to the verb, and especially pronouns. And you know who fucking loves that shit? The Arabs.
The Allah Abba people.
And especially you guys from Morocco. So when I learned Darija, I came across sentences like Wash man sitinish? Did you not forget me? Or Wash ma warra tumlish? Did she not show them to you? Not only do you guys fuse the subject and the object to the verb, but also the negation. In English that would literally be, I'm not gonna show them to you. Like, what the fuck?
Polypersonal agreement sucks. Beautiful.
Reciprocity. Reciprocity is actually quite useful. Let's take the German sentence Sie lieben sich as an example. Without further context, this can have two meanings. They love each other and they love themselves. Now, of course, you could just add more words to rephrase the sentence to clarify that, like Sie sind selbstverliebt and Sie lieben einander. But on this channel, we hate doing more than is expected from us, so in terms of reciprocity, German sucks and English is better. So it's definitely a good feature to have. Reduplication. So while reduplication in English is mostly restricted to baby speech like yummy yummy, or boomers trying to get laid by texting sexy schmexy via Facebook Messenger, it is actually quite a nice feature. Some languages use it to convey pluralism, like Japanese, kuniguni, multiple countries or a bunch of countries, or Swahili, where piga means to strike and piga piga means to strike repeatedly. Now, I would rank this as good to have if some languages hadn't ever done it, like Pingalapese, where sang means cries, sang sang means is crying, and sang 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 means is still crying. So I'll rank it too, okay. Reflexive verbs. Super easy concept. I wash is a normal verb, and I wash myself is a reflexive verb. Now adding a word like English does is kind of boring, so let's look at Russian again. I wash is я мою, and I wash myself is я моюсь. So just by adding that one little sound, we made the same change as in English, but we saved around 700 milliseconds. Now let's say you use 100 reflexive verbs a day, that's around 70 seconds, roughly a minute. So that's 1 minute of your life that you won't get back. So better prepare yourself, подготовься, to waste 10 years of your life to learn Russian just to save 1 minute a day. Beautiful. Serialization, or verb stacking, is the process of utilizing multiple verbs to convey meaning. English doesn't really do that, but an example would be let's go eat and come live with me. But that's nothing compared to the Maonan language in China, where the sentence could I walk there to bring it back and try it translates to I want, walk, go, take, return, come, try, do, look, become. So I mean it's kind of interesting, but I'll be honest with you.
The world could do. It's like sucks. Damn.
Specificity. If in your language there's a difference between every employee talk to one customer and every employee talk to one customer, then congratulations, your language marks specificity. In the first example, all the employees talk to one specific customer, who certainly got pretty annoyed after that. And in the second example, every employee talked to one customer each, so there were many customers and all of them were talking to an employee. I mean, every one of them to one employee each. I'm confused now. So yeah, sometimes it's good to have specificity. Stress. Stress is certainly something I've been under for the past few minutes, but what I mean here is the stress in the sense of intonation. Now, almost all European languages make use of stress, so you might be asking, well, what's the big deal? Now, I think stress is like pitch accent, but worse, because you have to deal with vowel reduction, and so, for example, the Japanese word makura has the pitch action structure high, low, low, makura. But the pronunciation of the syllables don't change. So if I say makura, the pronunciation is correct, but I still have an accent because I used the wrong pitch. Now, if you did the same thing to English, then this is what you would get.
Putang diese altogidir, we can hear how English word sound, I fight weary concise dient, and the pronunciation of vowels.
But we don't say pronunciation, we say pronunciation. All vowels that are not stressed lose their quality and get reduced to schwa. That's vowel reduction and it sucks. Learners of Russian will understand what I mean. In Russian, unstressed o turns into or a into u into u, ya into y or y, you into y, and ye into I. So good weather will be хорошая погода, because only a quarter of the letters are not reduced. So stress is even more meh than pitch accent. Telicity. That's a weird one.
For you.
If a verb is telic, that means it has a specific endpoint. John walked home in an hour is fine, because to walk home is telic. But John walked around in an hour sounds bad, because to walk around is atelic. John walked around for an hour, however, sounds just fine, because to do something for a while is atelic in general. Now, English does not mark telicity, but Finnish does, combined with aspects. In Finnish, for example, we have those two sentences. Ammuin karhun and ammuin karwa. Both of them mean I shot the bear. But the first one is in the accusative and conveys telicity, so the bear is dead, end point. The second one is in the partitive case and is atelic. I was shooting at the bear, but that's it. I didn't kill it, it's still alive, no end point. Now, I personally think this concept is pretty cool and it clarifies a lot of ambiguity, so I'll put it to good to have. Tenses. Strictly speaking, there are only 3 tenses: past, present, and future. And what usually drives you nuts when you learn Spanish or French are the aspects and the moods, not really the tenses. What might be interesting is that French and Spanish actually do have a future tense, but English doesn't.
Excuse me, what?
Let's look at the Spanish verb for to take or to board, coger, or if you're from Latin America, to fuck. It has 3 distinct forms for the past, present, and future: cogí, cojo, and cogeré. Now let's look at English. I took, I take, and I will take. The forms for the present and the future tense are the same, so English doesn't really have a future tense, grammatically speaking. I mean, there are languages that don't have any tenses at all. Mandarin Chinese, for example, I censor yesterday, I censor today, I censor tomorrow. So tenses are kind of overrated, so I'll put them to okay. Speaking of Mandarin Chinese, tones.
Don't just put your hand in the wok, you will burn yourself, hiya!
Tones do not only occur in most Chinese dialects, but also in Vietnamese, Thai, Burmese, The vast majority of Niger-Congo languages, many Northern American indigenous languages, and a bunch of Austronesian languages. They can convey grammatical features or lexical meaning, and some tonal languages might have up to 15 distinct tones. So the only fact that keeps them out of the trash category is that they're pretty memeable.
Хуй – это серый цвет, серый, типа такой. Хуй, ага. А если хуй, то значит сожалеть. Ой, блин, к сожалению, я ошибся. Йоги-баки. А если хуй, то значит возвращаться обратно. А если хуй, то значит уметь.
So I'll put them to nah. Volition. To explain volition, I need an example. When somebody says, "I killed your dog," the other person has no way of understanding whether that action was intentional or not. In lame languages, like almost every European language, you have to add words to convey that meaning. So I intentionally killed that fucker. And now the neighbor has a better understanding of the situation. That might not save the guy who killed the dog, but it gets my point across. In Sinhalese, which is spoken in Sri Lanka, cases express volition. I danced is intentional. It danced me is unintentional. And it danced to me is forced, maybe even by an evil spirit. So while volition occurs in almost every language, we gotta have a cool way to express that. So it's good to have. It's good to have. Yes and no. Trash. It's a waste of vocabulary space. Do we really need yes and no? We don't. Are you comfortable leaving them out forever? Absolutely. Are you prepared to bear the consequences? I am prepared. Do you like pizza? I love pizza. We don't need it. We don't need it. And by the way, there are languages without yes and no in existence. So the Chinese languages, Japanese, Irish, Scottish Gaelic, Latin, and many, many more. So the next time the police asks you, "Have you killed that man?" You just say, "I didn't, but I don't know, man." Diminutive. Let's take this Russian sentence. Я вчера пошел в магазинчик и увидел очень милые книжки для моих детишек. Мой сыночек и моя доченька точно будут рады. Now this fucking sucks to translate to English because English doesn't have diminutives, but it is something like, yesterday I went to a cute little store and saw super adorable books for my beloved children. My precious little son and my cute little daughter will be really glad. The diminutive lets a noun appear to be cute, little, or adorable. The only words in English I can think of right now are piglet or kitty. Australian English, however, has been way more innovative over the years, and as far as diminutives are concerned, it's a great language. You can watch my Aussie review, my Aussie man analysis if you want to learn more. I think the diminutive is one of the best features a language can have, and it can really mess up translation if you get it wrong, so I think it's beautiful. Anyway, the next one is augmentative. This is the opposite of the diminutive, and it lets nouns appear large and overwhelming. It's not as commonly used as the diminutive, but it can be found in nearly every language in some form. But the big players are definitely the Romance languages and Greek. So, for example, let's take Spanish. Silla is a chair, but sillón is a big chair. Or libro is a book, but libracho is a big-ass book. And by the way, big ass is also an augmentative, just in form of an adjective. I think augmentatives are super cool and they deserve the same spot as the diminutive. Absolute direction. Now, there are actually three types of spatial cognition. Some rare languages, like Mopan or Totonac, use intrinsic perspective to refer to a location. So, for example, the pen is close to my ear that points towards the window. The problem with using intrinsic perspective is that you have no fucking idea where my window is. Otherwise, you won't be able to understand where the pen is unless you see me holding it in my hands. So, but that's very uncommon. Most languages use relative perspective. I'm holding the pen close to my left ear. This is way easier to understand, but the thing is that my left ear is your right, and your left is my right. And I'm sure you have been in that situation where someone has something on their face, and you told them it's on your right cheek, but they think they think you didn't factor in the mirror effect, and they wipe their left cheek. And you say, no, it's actually on your right side from your perspective, and so you have to tell them. And so it's super annoying, right? Well, meet absolute direction. I'm holding the pen close to my east ear, And I know this is my east ear because I live right at the border to Austria, which is behind me. And I know this is my west ear, this is my east ear, and you're sitting in my north through the camera. And for you it's the same. You're looking into my south, so the west is still here, it's still my west ear. Isn't that cool? Now, I gotta admit that technology messes up things. It brings along some problems because you never know what direction you're looking at through a camera. So this is my south, but you have no possibility of knowing that. But for natives of Arente, Gugu, Imithir, Kuk, Tayore and Tseltal, that's not a problem. They always know where north is, and if they don't, they can't speak their native language. So effectively, if you're fluent in one of those languages, you gain a skill, which puts it to the absolute top. What a fucking great feature. Alright, last feature, inalienable possession. What's the difference between my head and my house? Well, you can sell off your house, but you gotta keep your head. Your head is inalienable. You're stuck with it. Languages might express this concept differently, but my favorite is probably with prepositions. In Hawaiian, a genitive with a is alienable, but a genitive with o is inalienable. Let's make an example with a dog and call it Doge, for the memes. Na iwi a Doge and na iwi o Doge. In English, both sentences translate to Doge's bones, but in the first one it's the bones that were given to Doge as a treat, but in the second one it's Doge's own bones. And this can be quite a useful tool. Let's make up a word in English, for example. So we have my, which is inalienable, and let's say nai, which is alienable. Now if you say he is my friend, then this will one of the biggest compliments one could get, because it means that no one could separate you and your friend. Your friend is inalienable to you. On the other hand, if you said he is nai friend, it still means he's your friend, but he's also replaceable, and that's kind of weird. That's kind of a mean thing to say. So I think inalienable possession really adds to the beauty of a language, which means I'll put it right here too. Beautiful. And yeah, alright, that's it. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you very much. I'm sure there were some points that you didn't agree with, and I want to know which points, so write that down in the comments. Write your experiences with different languages and grammatical concepts down in the comments. And I'll get right to the next video and see you soon.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I will see you. Maybe not soon, but yeah.